December 7th, 2025. Breaking news from the Eastern Front. Vladimir Putin just made a fatal miscalculation. He authorized a caliber missile strike on the newly rebuilt Okhmadi D 20 Children's Hospital in Sumy. But this time, President Zelensky didn't go on television. He didn't deliver a speech. He simply picked up his secure phone and sent a 3-word message to the 383rd Remotely Piloted Aircraft Regiment, make them remember. 72 hours later, deep inside Russia, the city of Tula, 310 miles from the Ukrainian border, goes dark. The time is 2:14 a.m. 14 carbon fiber ghosts, each weighing just 44 pounds, are skimming the surface of the Upa River at 124 miles per hour. They fly at a suicidal altitude of just 8 feet, so low, their propeller wash disturbs the water beneath them. These are modified Ukrainian FPV drones. Inside the Shiglavsky Val plant, the Russian night shift workers have exactly 43 minutes left to finish their coffee. After that, the only factory in Russia still capable of building S-400 radars will be reduced to a pile of ash worth $500 million. The total cost of this drone swarm, $490,000. What they're about to destroy? A specialized production line that took Moscow 12 years to build. Putin thought he could break Ukraine's spirit with terror. Tonight, 14 plastic aircraft built in a garage are about to teach him a very expensive lesson in asymmetric warfare. 3:10 a.m. Inside the climate-controlled cabin of the 96 N6E Big Bird radar, the green sweep line rotates hypnotically. It paints a picture of a perfectly empty sky. This system is the pride of the Russian aerospace forces. It can track 300 targets simultaneously at the edge of space, but tonight, the Russian major manning the console isn't fighting NATO. He's fighting sleep. He lifts a thermos of lukewarm tea to his lips. His eyes glaze over as he stares at the flat line of the horizon. He believes nothing larger than a sparrow can move through Tula's airspace without tripping a dozen alarms. He is dead wrong. 3 miles away, physics is playing a cruel trick on his $500 million sensor. The 14 Ukrainian drones aren't flying over the landscape, they're flying through it, racing along the winding Upa River at 124 miles per hour, hugging the water at a terrifying altitude of just 8 feet. The river here cuts deep into the terrain, flanked by steep 60-foot embankments. These mud walls create a natural radar trench, a blind spot. The Big Bird's horizontal beam simply cannot penetrate. The electromagnetic waves slam into the dirt and bounce back as harmless ground clutter. Suddenly, a single pixel flickers on the major's screen. A momentary anomaly. Drone number 7 banks slightly too hard around a sharp river bend, exposing its wingtip to the radar beam for 0.4 of a second. The major pauses. He sets his cup down with a sharp clack. He leans forward, squinting at the sector. Wild ducks again, he thinks, his finger hovering over the alert button. The blip vanishes as the drone's flight computer aggressively corrects its role. The screen returns to silence. The major exhales, mutters a curse about the local wildlife, and picks up his tea. 10 seconds later, the entire swarm slips past his perimeter. He's still staring at the all-clear signal, completely unaware that he has just become the most expensive blind man in military history. 3:15 a.m., 17 miles from the target. The second layer of the Russian defense grid activates with violence. The Krasuka 4 electronic warfare station, a truck-mounted beast designed to blind AWACS aircraft and burn out low-orbit satellites, surges to maximum output. On the main console, the spectrum analyzer spikes into the red. The Russian technician watches with satisfaction as the local radio frequency band dissolves into a wall of white static. He wipes a bead of sweat from his forehead and grins at his commander. In his mind, the Ukrainian drones have just been lobotomized. Their GPS chips fried, their control links severed, sent spiraling into the snow. He is wrong. In the dark sky above, the 14 FPV drones do not spin out of control. As the jamming wave hits, their onboard processors detect the loss of GPS signal and instantly execute a pre-programmed failsafe. The drones stop listening to satellites and start looking at the ground. Their belly-mounted cameras snap open, scanning the moonlit landscape below. The AI software locks onto the most distinct visual feature in the darkness, the high-contrast silver glint of the main 110 kilovolt power transmission lines running toward the city. To the drone's computer, these wires are a glowing highway. The swarm snaps into formation. They descend to just 50 feet weaving aggressively between the steel pylons. They are now surfing the enemy's own infrastructure, using the Russian power grid as a physical map to find the factory. Back in the Krasuka 4 van, the technician's smile vanishes. The radar screen, which should be empty, suddenly lights up with 14 chaotic, flickering targets. They aren't drifting with the wind. They're zigzagging with terrifying purpose, moving faster than before. The realization hits the room like a physical blow. The jamming didn't kill them. It just forced them to open their eyes. 3:19 a.m., the airspace above the Shkaluski Val plant transforms into a deadly magic show. 3 new radar contacts erupt on the screens to the southwest, cruising at a commanding altitude of 2,600 feet. They're moving fast, and their electronic signatures perfectly mimic the terrifying profile of British-made Storm Shadow cruise missiles. Panic sweeps through the factory's defensive ring. Air raid sirens begin to wail. The turrets of 4 Pantsir S-1 units and 2 Tor-M-2 missile systems whip around instantly, hydraulic motors whining in the cold air. Inside the lead Pantsir vehicle, a 20-year-old gunner is hyperventilating. His finger trembles over the engage button. He doesn't know that these missiles are actually $500 plywood decoys fitted with corner reflectors and cheap jet-assisted boosters. For 68 consecutive seconds, the night is ripped apart by raw firepower. The Pantsers vomit their entire magazines into the sky. 56 to 57 interceptor missiles streak upward, trailing tongues of fire. The dark Russian winter becomes a blinding strobe light of explosions. Inside the cramped, smoke-filled cabins, the Russian crews erupt in cheers. They high-five each other, soaked in adrenaline and sweat, believing they've just saved the factory from a NATO-level airstrike. The young gunner leans back, laughing with relief as the radar screen clears, but he is celebrating a fatal error. While every sensor and every pair of eyes was locked on the high-altitude distraction to the southwest, the 14 real FPV drones silently slipped through the northeast corridor. They are now just 5 miles from the perimeter, skimming the frozen ground at treetop level, unnoticed, unengaged, and fully armed. 3:22 a.m. The battle shifts from machine logic to human panic. The 4th layer of defense is a wall of flesh and blood. 450 troops from the Russian National Guard dug in around the factory perimeter with heavy machine guns and man-pads. They're already on edge, watching the sky where the decoys just exploded. Then the tactic changes. The 4 lead FPV drones violently pitch up, climbing rapidly from their treetop stealth altitude to 80 feet. They don't attack. Instead, they activate a payload that has nothing to do with explosives, heavy-duty external loudspeakers. A deafening, rhythmic thump echoes across the frozen factory grounds. It is the unmistakable acoustic signature of a Russian Ka-52 Alligator attack helicopter. Confusion rips through the lines. The soldiers freeze. Is it friendly air support? Is it a defection? Is it a Ukrainian assault team? Every head snaps upward. Dozens of xenon searchlights sweep the sky in a frantic, uncoordinated strobe effect. A sergeant screams over the din. Helicopter above us. Positions. Panic takes over. Discipline collapses. Hundreds of rifles raise in unison. A wall of tracer fire erupts into the night sky, drawing useless parabolas of light against the stars. They are shooting at ghosts, and while 900 eyes are locked on the noise above the trap springs below, FPVs number 5 and 6 do not climb. They dive. Screaming in at 120 miles per hour, they detonate just 10 feet above the ground, right in front of the main defensive line. These aren't fragmentation warheads. They're smoke generators rigged with high-temperature oxidizers. 2 columns of thick, black, chemically obscured smoke erupt instantly, burning at 1,000 degrees Celsius. The effect is immediate and blinding. The intense heat blooms create a whiteout on every thermal site in the sector. The night vision goggles of the Rosgvardia troops flare out, leaving them blind. Smoke fills the air, choking the defenders. In 39 seconds, a battalion of 450 men is reduced to a huddled, coughing mess, firing blindly into the gray fog while the real killers slip past them in the confusion. 3:24 a.m. The smoke from the perimeter breach is still rolling, thick and hot across the compound. In the southeast corner of the factory, the final heavy gatekeeper, a TERCOM-2 missile system, is blind. Inside the command vehicle, the gunner stares at his thermal targeting monitor with wide, terrified eyes. His knuckles are white as he violently wrenches the joystick, trying to find a cold spot in the inferno. Sweat drips from his nose onto the console. No targets. I can't see anything. The sensors are burned out, he screams, his voice cracking. He doesn't see the 4 FPV drones diving out of the smoke directly above him in a vertical top attack profile. 4 tandem heat warheads strike the roof of the command vehicle almost simultaneously. The shaped charges jet through the thin top armor like a laser through paper, incinerating the crew and electronics instantly. The massive turret of the TERCOM-2 is blown off its ring, landing upside down in the snow. The searchlight flickers once and dies. The last heavy shield is down. 8 drones remain. They level out and accelerate into the final 400-meter kill box. 3:25 a.m. The battle devolves into primal, desperate chaos. The sophisticated radar networks are gone. Now it's just terrified men against machines. A pocket of surviving guards near the main assembly hall tries to fight back with medieval desperation. One soldier screams and hurls a roll of manual chaff, strips of aluminum foil, into the air by hand. A pathetic attempt to confuse a drone, guided by optics. Beside him, a D-K heavy machine gun roars, spitting 12 7mm rounds into the dark at point-blank range. A heavy round strikes the carbon fiber wing of the lead FPV. It punches a clean hole through the composite material. But the drone doesn't stop. It doesn't bleed. It doesn't feel pain. And it doesn't panic. It simply adjusts its aileron to compensate for the drag and keeps coming. A young Russian conscript drops to his knees in the slush, his hands shaking so violently he drops his magazine. He grabs his radio, the cord tangled in his gear, and screams the final report of the night into the static. They're right on top of us. They're here. Then the buzzing stops, replaced by the whistle of terminal velocity. 3:26 a.m. The final 8 FPV drones slam into the main radar assembly hall, and the laws of physics take over with terrifying precision. As the warheads detonate, the copper liners inside collapse and invert, transforming into jets of molten metal traveling at 8,000 meters per second. These superheated lances punch through the heavy steel walls of the factory as if they were wet cardboard, ignoring armor, incinerating the delicate machinery inside. The multi-million-dollar calibration equipment essential for guiding S-400 missiles is instantly vaporized. The high-voltage capacitors explode, creating a secondary electrical fire that turns the facility into a 3,000-degree furnace. In 11 minutes, a production line that took Russia 12 years to build is reduced to a twisted skeleton of blackened steel. By sunrise, the physical smoke clears, but the strategic shockwave is just beginning to travel. The destruction is total. 62% of Russia's capacity to produce new high-end radars has effectively evaporated. Moscow won't be shipping a single new unit for at least 3 months. But the real damage isn't in Tula. It's on the front lines. Panic sweeps through the general staff in Moscow. Realizing their domestic industry is now naked, they make a desperate and fatal calculation. They order the immediate withdrawal of 11S 400 battalions from the Donbass and Kherson fronts to create a defensive ring around their remaining factories. This retreat leaves the Russian army on the ground exposed. Suddenly, the sky over Ukraine, once a no-go zone, swings wide open. The withdrawal of these air defense systems clears the path for Ukrainian F-16 seconds and Storm Shadow missiles to hunt without fear. A tactical strike on a factory has become a strategic checkmate for the entire war effort. Vladimir Putin is forced into the nightmare scenario he feared most, choosing between protecting his war machine's future or his soldiers' lives today. By the time the sun sets, it's clear he has failed to save either. Meanwhile, the psychological blow lands harder than any explosive. Footage of the attack spreads across Telegram like wildfire, showing terrified Russian troops firing blindly into smoke. The caption is brutal and simple. When your $500 million air defense meets a garage-built drone, the myth of the invincible Russian shield is shattered not by hypersonic missiles, but by plywood, plastic, and vengeance.